Hi guys, welcome back to the Big Sew Along. I'm Ginny and today we are doing part 4 of our Vogue 1817 Marcy Tilton Sew Along. So today we're doing the collars. We're doing collar A and collar B. I was originally going to put the sleeve in here as well, but last week I got a comment from Louisa asking if I had any advice on she needs to shorten the pattern. She's 5'3", but I thought shortening and lengthening this pattern, because there are no markings on the pattern for that, I thought that would be beneficial for a lot of people. So I'm going to do a quick tutorial on that. Before I do, I am wearing my Marcy Tilton Vogue 1817, the second version in the red twill. I don't have full-length pictures to show you guys yet, just haven't had time to get them done. I will definitely have those for you for next week when we finish up, but I wanted to put this on today so you guys could see. I am 5'3" and a half. And this is the size 14 with no length alterations whatsoever. Okay, so just so you guys can see what it looks like, made up on almost 5'4", size 14, straight out of the package. Okay, so I don't have much time to talk because, like I said, I have a lot to get through today. I'm going to go straight to the shortening lengthening tutorial, and then after that we'll go straight into the collar A and then collar B. I will leave timestamps for those 3 sections below. I will also separate them by a black screen, so if you're just fast forwarding, you'll know when you get to the next section because you'll see a black screen. Okay, cool. I'll come back after all of that and we'll chat some more. Okay, so I hope you guys can see this. This is the back piece. You can see the top is here. We're going to move that up so you can see what I'm doing here. Normally when I would almost always just shorten something, but it's the same if you need to lengthen it. I would normally do that on or near the waistline, especially because I happen to be very short-waisted. However, you can see if I line my ruler up with the waistline, I'm going to interfere with this curved edge over here, which means that if I shorten this curved edge, I'm going to also have to shorten the piece that fits in here. You can do that, but I feel like it's less complicated and easier just to move this up. So I'm going to do my alteration here about 2 inches above the waistline. This jacket, you can see, does not have any waist shaping, so that is not going to make any difference. I would use that as my line for altering. And then I would do the same thing on any of the pieces that have a waistline measurement. I would just use that exact same thing. Just put it 2 inches above this marked waistline, and then you would fold it out as much as you need, or you would cut it open and spread it as much as you need. Now, there are a couple of pieces on this bodice that do not have a waistline measurement or marking. Piece number 10, I can't remember what the piece is on view B, but this is view A. It is the upper side front, does not have a marking, so it's easy enough. You can see here, there's a notch right here, there's a notch right here. Those two are going to match up, so match those just like that, and you can kind of see through your tissue right where that is, and you would just mark it on this piece of paper, on this piece of tissue, and then on this piece, that is where you would make that alteration. And you just want to be sure before you do any cutting that your lines are perpendicular to each other. Perpendicular with your grain line, that is. And so any piece that doesn't actually have a waistline measurement on it, I would do it this way. Anything that does have a waistline measurement on it, I would do it this way. For the bottom pieces, you have several. For most of them, I would use this notch as my marker for altering. And again, just, you know, roughly wherever it is, we're going to make sure that our ruler is perpendicular to the grain line. And then just right about where that notch is, make our line all the way across. And then obviously if you're shortening, you're not going to have any room up here, so you would want to move it this direction. So whenever that's possible, that is what I would do. However, there are two places where that is not possible. On piece number 3, which is your lower right back, it actually is possible, but I kind of think for this particular one, your notch is up here, and if you do your alteration here, you're going to have the same problem we had with the back, which is that you can do it here, and then you'll do it exactly at the waistline in the back, and that's fine. Since we went 2 inches above, we shortened our bodice up there. So we want to be sure that this curve stays the same. So in order to do that, I would probably do, and you don't want to interfere with your pleats here, I would probably use this mark right here, which is the bottom of the pleat, and line that up perpendicular to our grain line and make my alteration there. Because this piece right here between this dot and this dot matches up to the side piece over here that will also be shortened. This from here up matches the curve on the jacket. I know it's a little complicated, but I just feel like you're better off doing it down here so that this side meets the lower left back evenly. The other place where you're not going to want to just use your darts is, your notches, is on piece 11. And that is because this is the lower left front. And, which is fine. Your notch is right here. You can see I actually cut mine here. The reason I did it this way is because this is the front edge of your jacket. And when this edge is finished, hemmed and sewn on, this piece is only 1.25 inches long. So if you just fold out 1 inch here, or whatever it is, it's fine. If you need to lengthen it, you would just cut it there and spread it. But if you need to shorten this, if you shorten it, you know, 1 inch, you're only the front edge of your jacket on this end is only going to be 1/4 inch. That is going to look awkward, and it's also going to be awkward to work with. So if you're shortening, I cut the paper right across where my notch is, and then but I didn't cut it all the way, obviously. I would just lap it as much as you need it to shorten on this side edge so that it matches the back. And then that leaves, you're gonna have to, you know, press that out and true up this edge so it's a straight line. But that way you shorten your jacket front without shortening the front edge. For our collar for view A, we have 4 pieces. We have 12, 13, 14, and 15. And the way they look when they're made up is like this. 12, let's see, 12, 13, 14, and 15. And the way they have you do this is they have you hem the top edge of each of these pieces and do your details on each one, and then sew them together. And one of the things I don't like about this is when you do that, you can see that this is a continuous line here. But you have your selvage edges, which are flapping up. I mean, sorry, your serge edges, your seam allowances. And that's not a huge thing. You can just, like, for example, because this one is up here and it curves down, this piece pokes out at the top. Now, you can just fold that under and hand tack that down, which is fine. this piece is completely separate because it's just sewn on completely separately. I really don't particularly like that. So the way we're going to do it is this way. We're going to start with piece number 15, which is this piece here that is completely separate and attached. And for that, we're going to take our pattern piece, and the first thing we're going to do is just do this little tuck, which is right here in the middle. And you will see when we turn it to the wrong side, I have marked 4 little dots right here, and we're just going to match those. So this one here matches that one, this one on this side matches that one. So we're really going to fold it right down the center. Make sure those match up. Like that. And then we're just going to go to the sewing machine and sew right along this line, right where our pin is. And make sure you back tack. This is just a little, it's almost like an open-ended dart in the middle of your collar. Okay, there's our little dart right there. Then on the right-hand side, this is the right side facing me. The right-hand side here, I've pressed under 5/8 of an inch. And I've also pressed under the top edge 5/8 of an inch. Now, I'm going to open them back up. We're going to fold our top edge to the wrong side. This is all laid out now. You can see where I've pressed it, here and here. We're going to fold this on that crease line. We're going to fold the top edge hem to the right side. And right along this crease line, we're going to stitch it right here. Just that little bit. So that's piece number 15 finished. The only other thing I did was I serged the edge that was not hemmed. So this is our hemmed edge. It's the wrong side. There's the hemmed top and the hemmed side seam. This edge over here, which is the front edge of your jacket, I just serged. You're going to want to finish this somehow. My recommendation is to just serge it if you can. If you don't have a serger, zigzag it. Don't fold it under or anything, because we're going to need the full length of that later, and you'll see why. But do either zigzag or serge that edge. Okay, next we're going to move on to piece number 12, which looks like this. We have 2 pleats right here, and we have some gathers that need to happen here. So for the pleats, you have 4 marks. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Sorry, 4 for each dart. 1, 2, 3, and 4. But these are pleats, not darts. So we can really just ignore these dots over here. They're unnecessary. We're not going to sew it down that far. Just use these marks. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Then, from the wrong side, we're going to match those up. Those 2 go right there. And again, this is a pleat, not a dart. So we're just going to sew from the edge to right there through the seam allowance. And the same thing on this one. Match those 2 dots up. And on the inside, just stitch them from the dot to the edge of the fabric. So you'll have 2. Okay, so our little pleats are sewn in here. I pressed mine so that the folds are facing up towards the top of the collar, and then I basted right across the edge just to keep them in place. Over here you'll see between these 2 pins I have 2 rows of basting stitches. This is piece number 12. Now we're going to take piece number 13, which looks like this. And you should have a notch right here on the edge of piece number 13, and a notch right here on the edge of piece number 12. We're going to match those 2 up in just a second here. So we're just going to put these right sides together. We're going to match up that notch. And now we're just going to sew this with our 5/8 inch seam allowance. And then we're going to finish that any way you want. Again, I'm going to serge mine, but you can zigzag it if you want. once we're done, we're going to open that out and we're going to press that to this side, to the one without the pleats. So we're going to press it to the left as we're looking at it. So that's where we are so far. Piece 12, piece 13. Now, and just so you can see, that's the back side, serged and pressed that way. All right, now we're going to take piece number 14, which looks like this. And you will see you have 2 dots right here. And you know what, I didn't say this before, you guys, but on both this piece and piece number 15, which was this one that we hemmed, you will have a mark on your pattern that says where the fold line is. I highly recommend making a notch there. They have a dart there. I just put a notch. I found it a lot easier to find later on. Okay, 14. You can see my 2 dots there. I have 2 dots here. I'm going to match those dots up. This dot goes right here. Actually, I'm going to flip this the other way around so you can see better. Those are my 2 dots matching. Right there. And then this one matches here. Right there. Just going to pin those 2 in place. And then we're going to use our basting stitches to gather up our piece number 12 so that it matches. It's not a ton of gathering, just a little. Like that. And then I'm just going to play with the gathering a little bit to make sure it's laying nicely and looks the way I want it to. Okay, once those look good, I'm just going to put a couple more pins in here. And I'm going to sew this side. Do the same thing. I'm going to sew it with our 5/8 inch seam allowance, finish that edge, and this time I'm going to press it to the right. So this is where we are so far. Now, it's piece 12, 13, 14, and this piece number 15, you'll see there's a little dot right here at the bottom. This one's going to get sewn on here, and it's just going to get sewn straight up like this. But we need to finish this edge. So we're just going to hem this edge with our 5/8, just this one edge right here with our 5/8 inch seam allowance. In addition, I mistakenly had us hem the entire width of the top here on piece number 15, the first one we worked on. In fact, we're going to need this front edge next to the serged edge. We're going to need this to be open, not hemmed. So I'm going to just go ahead and unpick mine from about here over. But if you haven't hemmed yours yet, you can hem it and stop right here. Just back tack right here. Okay, so I have this edge hemmed now. This whole length is still raw. And you can see I have unpicked my hem on this piece just to almost 2/3 of the way. So back to where the dart is. So like I said, if you haven't sewn yours already, just don't sew it this far. You do need this edge to be sewn, to be hemmed though. Okay, the next thing is, we're going to move this over this way a little bit. On this piece right here, you should have a little dot right about here. On this piece, you should have one right about here. And we're just going to match those 2 up. Like that. And then I'm just going to sew this down. The instructions say to sew a 1/2 inch away from the folded edge of this hemmed piece. I'm actually just going to sew right along this stitching line that I have here already. And just be sure to back tack because this is going to be like a little bit of a stress point. Okay, then the other thing is, way over here on this end, we're going to serge this edge off. Or finish it any way you'd like. This is our collar so far. And now we're just going to attach this to the bodice, the neckline. The first thing we're going to do is match this. You should have a notch where your center front is, and a notch on the center front of your collar. We're going to match those. And then I did, it doesn't tell you to, but I did put a notch on my center back. If I can find it. I think it's right here. And then also the center back of my my jacket, I put a notch in there again, if I can find it, right there. So we're going to match those two up. And then we're going to match this front up. Center front. And center front. Right there. Okay, now we're just going to keep pinning this in. You may need to clip your jacket neckline, but I kind of don't think you will. Once we get that collar pinned all the way on, we're going to sew that together, but just be aware that the neck seam allowance is only 3/8 of an inch. So we're going to sew that with our 3/8 of an inch seam allowance, and then we're going to come back and bind it. The next thing we're going to do is take care of forming our facings and hemming that neck collar. And the way we're going to do that is, this is the right side of our jacket, and the notch that shows us where the fold line is right here. We're just going to fold that back on the fold line, line it up, and you can see this is why I had to unhem this part of the neck that I had originally had hemmed, because we need to fold this back like this. And sew it down right there. And then we're going to do the same thing on the other side. My fold line is right here. We're just going to fold it on that little notch. And we're going to sew it down right here. Once you get those sewn down, you're going to want to go ahead and clip those corners and then press that so it looks nice. So this is what our corner looks like now. And you can see I've pressed it open. We're just going to flip that to the wrong side. Use our point turner to get it nice and sharp. Just like that. And the same thing on the other side. So it looks like that. Now on this side, which is the left side as you're wearing it, this edge right here is already hemmed, so we don't really need to worry about that. On this side, and all the length of this collar, it is not yet hemmed. What we're going to do is, we're just going to fold this under our 5/8 inch, like that, and then fold it under one more time, so it's like that, all the way down. Give it a good press and a top stitch, and then just use your top stitching to go straight across the facing here, and you're just going to continue that down to this stitching line right here. On this side, you're going to do the same thing. You're going to just stitch this straight down from, this is already hemmed, so we're just going to stitch this down from here to that stitching line. Now, the other thing we have to deal with when we're doing this hem right here is this corner, because you can see when you fold this over, when you fold it over like that, say, and then like that, you're going to have a little hunk that hangs off of here. So my suggestion is to just cut it at a 45-degree angle like that. And it should be, now when you fold this under and then over again, you should get something that looks almost like a mitered corner. And then when you stitch this, try to get this stitching to meet up right here with this stitching that we already have on this line. For the color for view B is piece number 23. And you will note there is a line right here that is the fold line. So we're going to open this to, oops. I'm going to open this out. And there we go. I'm going to open this out wrong side facing up. And we're just going to press both of those ends in towards the center on that fold line. And then we're going to top stitch both of these 1 inch from the fold. So right along here. And right along here. Once we have our top stitching done, we're going to fold this. This is the wrong side again. We're going to fold it this way. And we're going to baste this long edge together. This is what our collar looks like so far. Now we're going to take our jacket. This is a right side facing up. And we're just going to pin this on here pretty much the same way we did the last one. That's our center. And now this folded edge of your collar, you want to match up with the fold line on your jacket, which is right here. You should have two marks here. One is the center front and one is the fold line. Be sure you're be sure you're matching it up to the fold line, which is the one closest to the edge. And then just pin it the rest of the way in. Again, you're pinning a straight edge to a curved edge, so you may need to do some clipping to get it lay in there nicely. You do have a notch here that matches up with the notch in the jacket. Now, before we baste this in, we're going to fold these facings back over our collar the same way we did the last one. So it's just going to fold back just like that. And the same thing on this side. Now we're going to go ahead and go back to the sewing machine and just baste that all the way across. The neck binding for this is supposed to be 1.25 inches wide, and then you fold over 1/4 of an inch and press it. I don't like to do that because it's hard to get that 1/4 of an inch done nicely, so I cut mine twice as wide and folded it in half and press it lengthwise. Now, either way, we are now going to go back to our jacket, and the unfolded edge of your binding is going to go along the neck edge of your jacket. Now we're going to go back to the sewing machine and we're going to stitch through all these layers, through the jacket, the coat, the jacket, the collar, and the bias binding, all the way across, but we're sewing this with a 3/8 inch seam allowance. I've gone ahead and trimmed my seam allowance down. It's only 3/8 of an inch, so there's not much to trim. I trimmed it off about 1/8 of an inch, so it's maybe 1/4 of an inch now. Now I'm going to press my bias tape this way over that seam allowance, and I'm going to do an understitching. I'm going to understitch it right to the top here. You'll be able to see that, but it will be on the inside, so it really won't matter. Once I get that done, I'm going to press everything. I'm going to pull this out like this and press everything to the inside. And then I am going to hand stitch this bias tape down all the way across. Okay guys, I hope that was helpful and not confusing. This collar for version A is not really that complicated. It's just a lot of pieces and a lot of steps, but it actually goes together pretty quickly and pretty easily. As you can see from the tutorial, collar B was kind of a no-brainer. It was pretty easy. Alright, so that is it for me this week, you guys. I am going to attempt a Friday Sews video this week, so keep your eyes out for that. And until then, happy sewing.